Alright, in this video I'm going to show how to make a protector for radiator or AC condenser, intercooler, etc. And I'm going to be putting this on the lower portion of my Dodge Ram, but this process would apply to many other applications. And this stuff here, this is called expanded metal lathe. But that said, you can find other stuff online, Grille, mesh, etc. But you can end up spending a lot more than necessary. I've seen individuals on like eBay, etc., selling stuff just like this for $50 to $100 when that giant piece there is $14 at your local construction store like Home Depot or Menards, etc. In any case, so this stuff works pretty well. It's pretty flexible, and it has a decent look to it when it's applied. So I actually did this once before, replaced the kind of plastic honeycomb on my Dodge Ram. Now that grill is pretty old. I did that one 15 years ago, and you can see the grill actually held up pretty well. The paint didn't hold up so well, but I used kind of very inexpensive stuff, and my knowledge of surface preparation before painting wasn't quite what it is today. All right, but anyways, you can kind of see how well that actually holds up. I mean, that grill is 50,000 plus miles on it, and it hasn't really been deformed significantly. You can see a few areas where probably grabbed a stone and potentially protected my radiator or intercooler. So stuff can be pretty good. So how we're going to do this, because this is just going to be protecting the lower portion of the intercooler and AC condenser on my kind of modified front bumper cover. So I'm making a frame here for it. I'm going to do that out of this 1/8 inch steel, 1/2 inch going the long way, and on the ends it's that, I think this is 1 inch, so 1/8 inch thick, 1/2 inch and 1 inch. And I'm using this to hold it square, but if you don't have this, just use a square. And make sure your metal is bright and shiny before welding. I actually really like a flap disc like this for surface preparation. Wire wheel works just fine as well, but I just find that this does a better job, a little less aggressive than, say, like a grinder wheel. So that's my preference, but anyways, just make sure it looks like that, nice and bright and shiny. All right, let's get going. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put my frame together, and I'll just spot weld it at first, make sure everything is square the way I want it, and then fit it up to the vehicle. Alright, so here the frame for my intercooler protector is kind of mocked up and in place. I actually really like these little magnets. These are from Eastwood. They just help kind of hold things in place. I can use them over there too. But in any case, what I have planned now, I'll go ahead and actually make a couple tabs that'll come out here to attach the lower end. And then way up top up here, there's, see that hole there? I can use that with another little tab. You just don't want to plan to attach things over here because the intercooler's behind that. You won't be able to access the backside. But it's coming together. All right, so I fabricated these little tabs that are gonna go and attach the frame to the truck. Now, you just make these with just a cutoff wheel and an angle grinder, and then I think it's nice to actually put a little character to them, so I just kind of curve them a little bit like that. A vise and a angle grinder with a grinding wheel would work fine for that, or better yet would be a bench grinder, or even better yet potentially would be a belt sander. But anyways, use what you have, and I'll show you what kind of have in mind here. So something like that. I'll actually put a bend in it there so you can see how, so it fits the contour of the truck just a little bit better. And then these two here will be able to go all the way up there. So now each vehicle is going to be a little different, but just kind of showing you how to do it on this one, and hopefully you can kind of apply that same skill set to your vehicle. All right, so I'm going to try to bend these just a little bit to match the contour of the truck a little bit better. So I decided to put them in the vise. I did it together so that way you can match them up just the way you want them. And I made them mirror image opposites. That way one side fits one side and the other side fits the other side. And then just kind of tap on the top with a hammer like this. The other advantage to doing them both at the same time, you can make sure the angle is the same and everything is lined up correctly. All right, now I'm at the stage where I'm going to cover this protector goes over the intercooler to help keep rocks and debris from harming it. And I'm going to cover it with this lattice, which literally comes from a hardware store. I got that at, I can't remember, Menards or Home Depot, but literally in the construction area. I mean, sometimes you don't need to get fancy. Sometimes just the regular stuff works really pretty well. In any case, I am going to take that, I'm going to attach it to here with rivets and washers. And in order to do that, I need a bunch of holes that size there. So I'm going to go ahead and drill those now. Then I will cut that to shape. I'll actually bend it around the edge so that way the edges of it are on the opposite side so you don't actually see the cut edge. And then we'll have a good protecting layer there for the intercooler. It'll sit behind the fog lights, and I think it'll look pretty nice. We'll even go ahead and paint it. So. And I have this piece here. I used my shear and then a brake to give it a nice 90-degree bend. But you can see what it's actually going to do. It's going to be a trim piece here. And this piece that it's trying to cover is not flat. I put a nice curve in there. So if I try to match that up there, you can see it doesn't match real well because the sheet metal is straight and that is curved. So what I can actually do, I can come here and I can shrink just a little bit along here, and then that will put a curve along this part, okay? So let's see how that's actually done. All right, so let's see how this actually works when it's in action. So I'm pushing down on the pedal. I'm just going to do this gently because I don't want to go crazy on this. I want a nice gentle curve to this panel. I don't want it to have abrupt transitions. So I'm going to go equal distances, every few inches or so. Just do a little tiny bit. Can always bend more. I mean, you can actually expand it too if you kind of screw up and you go too far, but it's easier just to shrink a little bit at a time and then shrink more if you have to. But you can see here how there's a nice gentle bend to that already. Okay. Just going to show a close-up of what that shrinking has done. So when you come in on this panel, you can see those little grooves there. That's where the shrinker grabs on and then pulls it together. And when I put this up against a straight edge, you can see really how curved that did get. And you can curve quite a bit more, but I was looking for this kind of gentle, even curve to match that there. And honestly, this is a really nice tool to add to the shop. It really can make some very graceful bends in material that would otherwise be very challenging to bend, like right angles like that. And you can see how now this kind of fits on there just as I had intended and makes a really nice trim piece. But tons of other applications for those. And they do range in price a bit based on how big of one you want, quality, etc. But anywhere from a few $100s up to even a couple thousand for some of the really fancy ones. All right, now I got the grill guard pretty close to being completed. After I did the rivets on the bottom, I did not like the way it looked. It really just didn't look finished. So that's why I fabricated that little guard down, or a little trim piece down there. Now it is a little more than just a trim piece actually, because it does offer some rigidity to the whole structure because it provides a right angle on the bottom there, and right angles give you strength. Now I should be able to take those clamps off. Clamp time for this stuff here is about 4 hours. Now keep in mind, if you're ever using this stuff and your tip looks like that, that means, so there's a little hex head in there that spins, or should spin, to mix that up. If you see catalyst and bonding adhesive separated like that, that means it's not mixing. Now that was fine in this case because it's not a structural piece, so I just mixed it with my little brush as I spread it on, so that's fine. But if that ever happens, do not use that for any structural components like body panels. All right, so I'll get these clamps off. We'll get this prepped just a little bit more. The way that I plan to prep the this guard here is with 2 scuff pads. I'll take one on each side. That's the best way I have found to get in those irregular surfaces, to get the surface prepared for adhesion to primer. And I do plan to use a self-etching primer just to give a little bit better adhesion, or so at least is my thought on that. Alright, so now it's all cleaned and prepped, ready for primer. The other thing I realized, which worked pretty well to kind of scuff up the surface, is gentle use of a fine wire wheel like that. You gotta be a little careful it doesn't snag things. The other kind of pitfall I realized too when cleaning these types of surfaces, you gotta be careful that your paper towel doesn't leave fibers behind, because that'll mess up your finish a bit. So I just kind of use my clean gloves hand to kind of brush those off, and that worked pretty well. Compressed air would work as well. But just be thorough about your preparation. It makes everything look nicer. Alright, here's the intercooler guard. I haven't put the bumper cover on yet, but wanted to kind of show what the whole thing looked like when it's installed. I used a couple stainless steel bolts from a dirt bike application I had laying around. Those will work pretty well. And see the function. This is pretty robust. I mean, it should actually protect pretty well against road debris, and yet matches the vehicle. Looks pretty nice. Almost looks like it was meant to be there. Alright, the bumper cover is all finished up, mounted on the truck. I think it looks really, really good. Very happy with everything and how it turned out. You can see how those fabricated pieces really help integrate it in with the rest of the truck. Really looks pretty seamless, almost like it was meant to be that way from the factory, which is what I was going for. And the intercooler protector, although it is a functional piece, actually kind of looks nice as well. Paint turned out really good. Anyways, overall super happy with this. Be tons more projects like this. Please feel free to leave tips, tricks, comments. Really appreciate all that. Even some constructive criticism is great. And also, please subscribe.